Hey Simon, how you doing? Happy holidays.
Hey Dave, thanks. Yeah, great to meet. It's always a funny one seeing someone on YouTube and then actually speaking to them. So yeah,
It's like
great to be here.
interactive television.
Exactly right. Yeah, strange concept.
This is my ninth call of the year. What for
Wow.
holiday chat? What do you want to talk about today?
Yeah, so um, we've spoken a couple times on email.
Okay.
I've been interested in buying businesses for probably 5 years now. 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, I went to a no money down buying a business no money down session.
And how many
Um,
did you buy?
well, I couldn't actually proceed because it was right at the start of COVID, and at the
Oh,
time I was living in Spain, just trying to work out where I wanted to live and what I wanted to do. And I made the plan to come back to Oz and do all that. But as soon as I got here, I realized that I think the no money down thing might work possibly, but perhaps it's better suited to a bigger market like a UK or USA. But it seems a lot of people would be doing it, and so your chance of succeeding will be quite low. But it seems to me, based on sort of conversations I've had and from what I know about the Australian market, that cash or capital is a little harder to come by over here. It's a bit more of a conservative country with regards to lending. There's less people, so there's less depth in the market. And so, kind of straight away, I was like, I just don't think this is going to work. And then there was a guy called David Koch, 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 I think his name is. He's a big TV celebrity, and
hmm.
he started promoting no money down programs on national TV. So I kind of started to get a bit suspect. I was like, I'm not sure this is the best way to go about things. So I realized that having watched a bit of your stuff and listened to a few of your YouTube videos and things, I thought, you know what, let's just do this. Let's just prepare to do this the old-fashioned way and raise enough capital so that when I come to do it, then I'm not kind of like left high and dry pitching to the owner that I actually have no money, but
Okay.
I want to
So
go buy a business.
so so now that COVID period has gone. Australia
Yep.
is now reopened for travel and
Yeah.
everything now.
Yeah.
And so is it your plan then to purchase a business in Australia? Is that what you're aiming to do now?
Right. So this is where I'm at. Um, I when I messaged you first, I was looking at becoming a business broker, thinking that'd be a great way to speak to people that do business buying to kind of get the first-hand experience about what it is, what it's all about. Um, Meeting contacts on the ground and potentially leveraging from business broking into business buying a business outright. But the finances weren't great, and the more I spoke to people like yourself and various other
Hmm.
people, that the amount of capital I could have made as a business broker, it was risky and it was low relative to how much I'm making. I work projects in banking and finance, sort of tech and data, that kind of thing. So the
Okay.
salary I'm on is pretty good, and just give that up to kind of be a business broker and not make any money potentially for a year seemed a bit financially risky. So I backed off that idea. Um, I've got a number in mind of what I think I need in order to be comfortable to raise to buy a business, but that's one of the questions. In fact, that's the main question I want to ask you. But I figure I'm probably a year to 2 years away from it, which is frustrating because I wanted to I've been trying to get out of my career, like my corporate career, for about 6 years now. So to have to add on another 1 or 2 is frustrating, but it's kind of a realist approach to
Hmm.
it. Um, and so I thought, look, in the meantime, well, the other question I had is, what skills do I bring to a business that I'm buying? I've got good finance and analytics background, but actually no real hands-on experience. I dabbled in e-com a few years ago. I tried to set up a fast food, like an innovative fast food chain. So I've got some reasonable experience, but I wouldn't call it, proper experience. So there I am going, right, I need capital to buy business. I'm a year to 2 years away. What can I do in the meantime? And all of a sudden, I'm back into e-commerce. So I'm working on a product idea as we speak. I'm going to run with this. There's a potential chance that, well, the strategy I'm thinking is that if you're worried about the skills you can bring to buying a business, and e-com is a good sort of technical skill to have. Is that not the best way to go about things? If you're just killing time, why not try and build an e-com company? And if it all goes wrong, at least in a year or two's time, you've got the experience that you can then go pitch to a company and say, look, this is the experience I've got. I've got management degree, I've got finance and analytics background. I'm a good guy, good option for you to sell your business to. And so that's the angle. Let's do e-com now, and let's see how business buying goes in a year or two's time. So that's really just to summarize
Okay.
all that I'm probably a year or two away from buying a business. I'm just going a kind of in a roundabout way, doing this e-com and everything else. So yeah.
So what would you like to talk about first? Would you like to talk about access to capital and resources that you can take advantage of and how much money you might need first, or do you want to talk about the type
Yeah,
of
let's talk
business?
sums. So like if I've gone from a no money down business buying program to no, come on, let's get realistic. If I kind of take what the business program is telling me, look for businesses in the sort of I guess if we talk US dollars, the $1 to $5 million revenue range. Let's start with something simple. Let's say we're looking at a $2 million business. And then let's say EBITDA is, what do you want to call it, 500 mil? I know we're thinking about the multiples. So
right. So instead of talking about revenue, let's talk about cash flow.
okay.
So if you're going to be talking about a business with an EBITDA of about 250 or 300,000,
Yeah.
in a lot of the times a business like that will sell for maybe 2.3, 2.4 times
Yeah.
SDE normally, sometimes closer to 3 times EBITDA.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so for that kind of business, typically, now I've worked with people in Australia before, and I know that in the Australian market, there's, like you said, there isn't the same kind of access to capital as there might be in the United States because they don't have a program like the SBA. But in that market, typically buyers still come to the table with some amount of down payment. Banks are still interested in doing some financing if there are tangible assets, some kind of collateral at play that they can look at in the business. And most of the business brokers in Australia I've spoken to, they prepare their sellers to know that they're going to have to finance part of the deal.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the smaller deals are done because people will leverage their real estate assets, their home or whatnot. Australia has had a lot of growth in real estate prices. So there's a lot of people that are taking equity out of their home. But in general, and this is kind of a rule of thumb globally, like I was talking with a guy in Peru and he was talking about the same sort of thing. Bankers in general, when they look at a deal, like to see a debt to equity ratio around 3 to 1 at the highest, which means you need about a quarter. So if you're going to look at a business that has a cash flow of $200,000 and that business is going to sell for between 400,000 and 600,000, then you need between 100 and 150 grand of your own money that you can put into this deal.
Right. Just run those numbers again. So you're saying, what was the cash flow number?
So if we're saying a cash flow of $200,000,
200 for 600.
So it could sell for between 400,000 and 600,000.
Yeah.
And so a quarter of that would be between 100 and 150,000.
Yeah. Okay. Which is kind of the number I had in mind anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's kind of that's what I thought it would be. It's good to know. I was thinking I needed probably 200K cash of my own to kind of get started on a reasonable deal.
Well, and even if you only need 150 down payment, the other 50 grand is going to come in handy because it's going to help you with all sorts of other fees.
Oh yeah.
And you may need to top up operating capital and things of that nature.
Yeah.
When you do this, when you go through this process.
Yeah.
I have, so your background is in, you said general business, analytics, and then IT and sort of development work.
I started off as a banker. I was a junior banker back in the day. I was on the grad program again in the lending stream, and then did some more senior or bigger ticket lending in London, and then for whatever reason decided I wanted to go down the more sort of quantitative route. So I moved into market risk. Yeah, so that was like markets and derivative risk, and then I leveraged into, well, not leveraged. I picked up a job in contracting, thinking that I just wanted to get out of the corporate.
Mhm.
I call it a corporate rat race. That's a negative. There's still still a lot to be said for it. It suits many people, and it's yeah, it's largely the way of the world. But I've been trying to get out. Contracting allows you to pick up jobs and stop jobs, and no one really asks questions about where you've been for 6 or 12 months. As long as you've got the skill set, they'll hire you. So yeah, that's where I've been. That's where I'm at. And yeah, again, the business buying approach was just, it seems,
When you daydream about the idea of being a business owner, is there any particular kind of business you feel attracted to?
It's a good question. I mean, the e-com angle I like, because that question comes at me a lot. It's like, when I tell people that's what I kind of, not say kind of, but if that's the direction I'm headed, what businesses would I like to buy? And I kind of get stuck. I'm like, well, look, I'm kind of open to any business really. It doesn't sound like a strong answer. So if I say, look, I'm looking for those with an e-com platform, and all businesses really should have an e-com platform, then that's my angle. Sure, if it's in areas of interest, retail, clothing, or uh, again,
So,
I've said I'm sector agnostic. That
right.
tends to be my approach, but I still think it's a little bit of a wishy-washy answer. But that's
Well,
it's
but let's
kind of my
explore
thought.
e-commerce, because e-commerce,
Yeah.
in my mind, is the sale of goods and products through the internet, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so, what attracts you to that? Is it the idea that your overheads would be lower because you're doing business online, or what's do you
When I
find
say
attractive there?
e-commerce, I just mean online selling. That's really all. So I've been watching a couple guys. One guy, I can't a guy called Tai Lopez. He used to flood everyone's inbox with,
Hmm.
become a millionaire, overnight sort of thing. And anyway,
I know him. He's in his garage with the Lamborghini.
that's the one. Yeah,
Yeah.
he lives in Beverly Hills, I think. Um, but he did actually leverage into, from ecom into buying some, taking over some pretty big companies, and that's where the two worlds collided. I was like, that
He
is that is
bought
a
some
legit
legacy
strategy.
brands, like I think he
That's
bought
right.
Radio
Yes.
Shack and a couple of other of these
Yeah, that
old
sounds
school
about right.
brands. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so you realize that was the first time I thought, hang on, there's a match between ecom and business buying. And there's other guys, a young kid, an Aussie kid called Davey Fogarty, and he's just done the same thing. I mean, he started ecom 4 years ago, and he's now doing hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue every year. He's a bit of a certainly a bit of an ecom guru, but he's now just made his first business purchase in Canada. Funnily enough, he's bought a sort of outdoors brand. But the idea is that all businesses need to have an online selling platform or an
Yeah.
e-commerce platform. But yeah, again, therein lies the link. If I do e-com, it can allow me to leverage into buying a business.
So one of the greatest things about most small businesses is that they have some kind of inherent moat or protection. Like a lot of the times when I deal with people who are looking at buying a business, one of the things they'll say is, I want to buy something that can't be done from China or delivered by Amazon.
Right.
And it's because they see the internet as being, if you want to think about it like a shopping center, it's like the world's biggest,
Yeah.
most competitive shopping center,
Yeah.
right?
Hyper
Where
competitive. Yeah.
everyone has access to everything all the time.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that draws people into the world of small business is they can say, well, if I'm the best, purveyor of a certain product in this geography, and people can't get it online, then
Yeah.
that means that I'm, going to be protected to a certain extent
Yeah.
in my business, right? Now, the idea that you find a small business that doesn't have any kind of real online presence and you introduce that, I mean, is a very good strategy. A lot of people are trying to run with that right now.
Yeah.
And you can find businesses that don't have a very good online strategy. You can find businesses that put up a web page in 1994 and haven't changed it since, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of things that you can find.
Yeah.
But when I help people find what kind of business they want to buy, we often start with a list of characteristics. And so not having a strong online presence could certainly be on your list of things that you're looking for. And you've already mentioned a certain size of cash flow. Like, given your earning potential in the labor market, it probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense for you to buy a business that isn't going to be able to produce about a couple $100,000 of revenue for you, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So if we know that the average small business has an SDE up to 20% of the revenue, it means that if you want $200,000, you need a business with a minimum of $1 million in revenue.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's there's our third. So our first is no online presence. Our second is at least $200,000 of cash flow. Our third is at least $1 million of revenue.
Yep.
Okay. So we're building a criteria list. The next thing that we could get into is, are you more interested in a tangible intensive type of business, or are you open to more of a service kind of business? So tangible intensive would mean more inventory or equipment or, delivery trucks, like more capital items.
Yeah.
That type of business is typically easier to get institutional financing for because you've got collateral items in the business.
Yeah.
Versus a service business, which has lower CapEx, harder to get bank financing for, but the seller might be more prepared to realize that they need to do some more financing for you.
Yeah.
Right. The more service side might be more apt for quick growth because it doesn't require a lot of capital infrastructure to grow.
Yeah.
So this would be another common decision that people make between one or the other.
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, I love analytics. So if I can find a company that just, it looks like I can improve it via analytics, that to me is appealing. But it probably leans towards more of the service sector, service style business rather than a product style business. But who knows? I mean, that there is also the beauty of e-com, is that there's a lot of analytics wrapped up in it.
Well, can you give me an example of a way that you might use analytics to improve a business?
Yeah, I mean, analytics is yeah. So off the top of my head, I've been thinking about like mortgage businesses. I mean, look, just again, totally random. I saw this guy just bought the Phoenix Suns, for example. A guy, can't remember his surname, but he started a mortgage company that competed with Rocket Mortgage. I don't know anything about either of these companies, but we're US based. But he started he started a company with 75 staff a few years ago. It's now got tens of thousands, and he's a billionaire. How would he have used analytics? Well, I mean, maybe that's a kind of a sexy word.
Hang on, you're talking about a big business.
I'm just trying to give an example of how analytics,
right?
A general answer, or
so no, let's think about a small business context.
Yeah,
like how would a small business use analytics? So I'll give you an example of how I've done this in one of my own businesses. So
okay, sure.
One of the first businesses I had was a junk removal business.
Right.
And the guys who drove around the truck had to record when they arrived at a site and when they left a site.
Perfect. Yeah.
We were able to figure out how much time they spent there, and by inference, how much time it took them to get to the different points as they traveled around. Yes. Right.
There you go.
And so if I were to figure out a better way to route my truck, it might be more efficient. But if I only have one truck, my improvement doesn't really scale.
Yes.
I make one improvement once, and then I've harvested all the gains from that exercise, right?
Yeah.
So in order for, if what you're bringing to the table is a strong analytic capacity, we need a place where improvements can be made and multiplied. So it's funny, I was talking with someone the other day, almost along the same lines. So I think one of the characteristics for the business that you're looking for should also be that you want to have a larger staff versus a smaller staff.
Okay, cool.
Or serving a larger number of clients versus a smaller number of clients. Because wherever you have a large group of actions, you have a greater opportunity to make small improvements that will add up to material outputs. Right?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whereabouts are you living now? Are you in one of the big cities in Australia?
Yeah, I'm in Sydney,
Okay.
Australia. Yeah.
How have you ever been part of an organization where you meet and spend time with other small business owners?
No.
I would say that that should be one of the number one things that you do over this period of time. If we're going to talk about a run-up period for you where you're going to be
Yep.
saving money,
Yep.
doing some work, starting your search,
Yep.
I think you need to get some small business owning friends.
Okay. Cool.
Because and I run into this quite a lot, where if you remain isolated and your connection to the business world is through the internet,
Yep.
you keep getting, and it happens to me too, you keep getting drawn into the clickbait about the guy who's competing with Rocket Mortgage.
Right.
And it's a conversation that is not going to in any way apply to the day-to-day of what you will end up
Yeah.
doing when you own a small
Yeah.
business, right?
Yeah.
But if you join like a Rotary Club chapter or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and you are in a room having lunch once a week with an accountant, a lawyer, a dentist, and a guy who owns a janitorial company, and
Yep.
the guy who's the Burger King franchisee and stuff like that, and they're talking about the issues they have with their employees, and they're talking about the truck that keeps breaking down, and like
Yeah.
you will you'll through osmosis and through those conversations start to pick up more on the threads of what this world is really about.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So now we're talking. So what do we have on our list so far?
Online presence, 200 SD mil plus cash flow, larger staff versus smaller staff or clients. That's for analytics. Join a small business club.
Right. And so as far as characteristics for a business, I would say that if we're looking for a larger staff or a larger number of client interactions, most likely you're leaning towards a service business.
There we
right?
go. Okay.
Which will likely have more people working in it. So,
Yeah.
Think about like a business that serves people at their home, or a business that, has a lot of customer interactions. It's sometimes when we're looking for inspiration, one of the best things you can do is literally just take your car and drive around in an industrial park.
Right.
Or get a copy of the Yellow Pages if you can find that, and flip through and just look at in the Yellow Pages, you can look at the headings of the different types of businesses.
Yeah.
And you can just ask yourself, does this type of business meet some of these criteria that I have on my list?
Yeah.
And you can start to identify categories that you might not have thought of.
Yeah.
That could well fit within what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, that No Money Down course that I did, it did actually give a pretty good breakdown of how to approach businesses, how to search for businesses. So to combine that program, that what I learned there with what you just said in terms of my criteria, that's very useful.
Once you have an idea of what kind of industry might suit you, and I'm just going to randomly pull an industry out of the air. Let's say like lawn maintenance or gardening services, right?
Yeah.
So you say that's the kind of business I would like to have because it meets certain criteria. Once you've made that decision, then it's super easy, because all you have to do is Google lawn maintenance in Sydney, and you get a list of all of them.
Yeah.
And then it's a matter of starting to reach out. And I've had clients before who had one client in New Jersey. He was involved in a business where he served the owners of multi-unit residential properties. And so what his criteria is he wanted to buy a business that would allow him to leverage his existing client relationships. So he wanted some kind of building related business where he could help renovate or rehabilitate these multi-unit buildings owned by people he was already doing business with. And so he started with the notion of flooring. So he explored over a 3-state area, any kind of flooring contractor or flooring wholesaler. He didn't want to get into retail. He didn't want to serve homeowners. He wanted to be more large order type stuff. And he came up empty. And so then he thought about apartments again, and he thought, what else do they all have? And he thought, cabinets. So then he started his search again in the same fashion, but this time with respect to cabinetry. And he found something. He found a business that did large orders. So they would sell like, 75 kitchens worth of cabinets all at one shot to a new apartment going up, or to someone renovating an apartment building, for example. And so it can sometimes just, if you've identified, say, the lawn maintenance, then you also say what other industries have similar characteristics, maybe maid service, or maybe, I don't know, something else. And then you just kind of work through the lists and create relationships. And this is the biggest thing. Because you can make contact with the owners of these places. And even if they don't want to sell, you still want to engage with them and talk with them. Because when you start to interact with the community of people who own businesses, Sydney's like any city, a small number of people own everything, like as far as the business community goes, right? And so once you start to make inroads and start to know these people and chit chat with them, well, what will happen is one of them will have a conversation with someone else. Something will come up that will cause them to recall their conversation with you. So I've had many clients that I've worked with over the years who've done extensive searches where they've reached out to business owners and found no one who wanted to sell. And then one of those people had a conversation with someone and made a connection for them, to some other business, through their own social networks. And so that type of effort takes time, which means, and you've got time, like you're talking about a 18-month to 2-year time horizon here. And that's sometimes what it can take. The other thing is that the top 5 reasons why businesses go up for sale, small businesses, burnout and fatigue, and boredom, poor health, the need to relocate, divorce, and retirement. 4 out of those 5 are not planned for. So I've also had cases where clients of mine have sent out letters and done telephone campaigns, and then 18 months afterwards we'll get a response. So someone will receive that communication, a letter or something, and they'll save it away. And they'll hang on to it because they think in the back of their head, ooh, something might be on the horizon, and then something happens and they reach out.
So what you're proposing then really is to get the ball rolling now in anticipation of an 18-month, 2-year start.
That's right. And you see, well, one of the things that they probably told you in that Zero Down course, and I don't know what Zero Down course you took, and I'm not an expert on everything that they teach, but you need a highly motivated seller.
Of course.
Right. And so if you're reaching out and talking with different people and you find people who anticipate wanting to sell in a year or two, they might think, hey, this is great. I'm on your time horizon. We should keep talking. But you might also meet someone who doesn't want to sell. Then something tragic happens in their life and suddenly they need to. And they're highly motivated. So you may be able to execute a deal even without gathering the further resources that you anticipate in the next 2 years.
Yes, that's the premise of the No Money Down, is that it was the Harbour Club, a guy called Jeremy Harbour. He's a pretty established guy, but to be able to do it, it's not obviously able. Not everybody will be able to do it. You got to have very strong relationship skills. You got to have pretty extensive experience, or you just have to get straight up lucky. Like you say, you come across a distressed seller that just has to get rid of it, and you're the only option. So again, I think it's possible, but the number of people doing a No Money Down course versus the number of people that actually get a business for no money, I think the numbers would be very small. Well, let's say smallish.
Well, I recorded another holiday chat call a couple of weeks ago with someone who's done one of those programs, and he's issued dozens of LOIs and had several accepted offers, but has yet to be able to complete it.
To close. These Jeremy Harbour, he's put together a pretty good program. I mean, well, why do I say that? I enjoyed it. Let's just say I enjoyed it. It was believable. He's a credible guy. There's he's got a lot of video testimonials, some of the people you actually meet in real life. So I don't think it's like, everyone's in on the scam. I do think there is some a lot of, let's say, legitimacy to it. But again, it's just a very small number of people that are actually able to pull it off.
Oh, listen, like I have done zero down deals for clients I've worked with.
Sure.
But here's the caveat.
Yeah.
They weren't broke people. And
Right.
this is the
Yeah.
distinction. This is the distinction that I think is often
Yeah.
missed.
Yeah.
Is someone who is already in business, who already owns a successful business, already has lots
Yes.
of assets
Yeah.
that they can leverage.
Yeah.
Those people can do no money down deals,
Yeah.
and it's not that risky for them because they have these other resources.
Yes.
But the way it's often presented is it's presented in a way that makes someone who believe that if they are flat broke, they can somehow pull off one of these deals.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And that's where this sort of scamminess, if that's the way you want to phrase it, comes in. I met a kid
I didn't
on
say
the program.
that. You said that.
Well, I was kind of more referring to just internet, programs in general, because they're all often a little bit sort of scammy. Maybe that's too harsh a word, but I met a kid on the program who was 25, had literally no money, straight out of university. He's like, "Yep, I'm going to grab a hold of the business, and that's going to be my career path of success." It all sounded a little bit fanciful, but again, there were some very successful people that had done it. But I think that's right. If you got the experience, you got strong assets behind you, then it's a lot more realistic. But look, I'm not preparing for that. I'm preparing for the sort of numbers we talked about earlier. That's my approach. Hey, if I find a business for no money down, that's a bonus. But like I said, I don't want to get to a situation where I found a business, but I've got no cash, and just get kind of left out of the deal. So
you talked. Let's get back to the business you want to buy. You talked a little bit about contracting. What kind of contracting work were you doing?
So I'm still doing it. My contract ended. Current contract that I was on, current, the most recent contract I was on ended about a month ago. So, I mean, there's worse places to be without work than Sydney in the summertime. So I'm not too bothered. It has put a kind of question mark around the timing of my finances, because I had a number in mind, and realistically, in a year's time, I would have probably had close to enough cash to think about buying a business. But again, if I'm doing e-com, it takes a slightly different route. But I'm doing data tech, fundamentally change projects.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are there any any consulting firms or companies that are in that industry? Have you?
I mean, there would be, yes. There would be. The logical career progression for someone like myself is to either move into, project management or product ownership, that kind of progression, or start your own consultancy. And that to me sounds more appealing, but I don't love consultancy, to be honest. I don't mind the work. For me, I want to take my skills that I've learned as an analyst, as a change analyst, sort of management consultant style skill set, along with the financial skills I picked up along the way, and use it to run my own business. I'm far more interested in something that's, all I can say is something that sounds fun. I've got no idea exactly what that is. Let's say hotels or food or whatever. I don't know. It's just something that's, it's almost like we like brands for a certain reason. You can't really explain why. That same kind of thing when it comes to a business. I'll sit down. What is this business? What does it do? That sounds interesting. That's sort of the approach I'm going with.
Okay. Because you can buy a consulting company, there are people in that field doing that kind of work, and that industry inside and out. Yeah,
it's true. It's true. So I mean, look, how does it sound? When I say, if you said to me, just starting this whole thing again, hey Simon, what sort of businesses are you looking to buy? And I go, you know what, Dave, I'm kind of agnostic about the whole thing. Does that sound wishy-washy to you?
No, you actually sound a lot like what I would call and I've worked with a lot of people like this, what I would call a corporate refugee. I worked with a lot of people who come from offices in very high towers that work long hours for very
Yeah.
high salaries, and they want my help to like buy a fly fishing lodge.
Right.
Because they want out of the city, out of downtown,
Yeah.
out of the
Yeah.
fast life. They want something completely different,
Yeah.
and they want to breathe fresh air, and they're just looking for that radical life change. And so
Sure.
it sounds like you're kind of along that same line, where you're looking for a business where you can apply your skills, but the lifestyle that is attached to this is something that's important to you.
I think so. I keep thinking about what is it I want to do in life. And look, I love golf. If I could somehow play golf like 3 or 4 times a week, that's a bit pipe dreamy. I've realized I'm actually prioritizing my career over golf. But I did ask you that question in that email a few months ago, saying, look, is it feasible to buy a business, do it up, sell it? Kind of like flipping a property, but not wanting to sound, dismissive of how hard running a small business is. Like, is it feasible to do that? And you suggested that there's potentially a better way, which I assume means acquiring multiple companies rather than.
Well, here's the issue with small businesses is that they're so risky, so they trade for a very low multiple of cash flow.
Yeah.
And so if you bought a business and you improved it, and you made an extra, let's say you took that $200,000 business and you improved it such that it had a 25% gain in profit.
Yeah.
Now it's earning 250. Well, you just increased its value by 100.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like real estate, where if you figure out a way to make an extra $1,000 on the building because of cap rates, it's now worth, an extra 10 or 12,000.
Yeah.
Right. So the same degree of leverage just isn't there when you look at the price.
Yeah.
But if you improve the business by 25% while you hold it for a decade, well, now you've just added another 2.5 years of profitability over the span of time that you owned it. And so I often say to people, the meat isn't in the exit of small businesses. The meat is in the operation and ownership. So if you buy it and improve it and make more money with it, and then, get the systems in place where you can afford to go and play golf 3 or 4 times a week, you enjoy the fruits of ownership while getting to enjoy what you want to do. Right.
Yeah. And so you're really just building a more, you're building a non-owner operated business.
There's more than one way to exit. And so, to exit the day-to-day operations, yet retain most of the cash flow, is a dream that a lot of people have. I mean, I talk to people all the time who think that they're going to buy a business and put a manager in place from day one. And it really doesn't work that way.
Right.
The ones that I've seen where they do have a manager in place and it's successful is when someone owns it, runs it themselves for a period of time.
Yeah.
They know the business inside and out. Then they can put a manager in place and have, all of the information that they need to manage the business. And because they know it inside and out, they know what questions to ask.
Yeah.
I here in Canada, I meet a lot of business owners that run their companies from Florida for a few months every year.
Right.
And they can do that because they know the business inside and out.
Yeah.
And then sometimes these businesses are advertised as absentee owned. But if you didn't know the business and you tried to pick it up like that, it would quickly fall off the rails.
Sure. Yeah. And what's that period of time? Like, so you buy a business, you want to become completely versed in the intricacies of running the business. What sort of period of time is like 6 months, 12 months?
I think it depends. It just depends on the complexity of the business. If you're talking about a very, very simple business, it could just be like 90 or 120 days.
Right.
But if it's a more complex business with more sort of, if you want to think about the normal routine of serving clients, if there's more exception routines, like more exceptional circumstances, then the more complex it gets.
Yeah.
The issue comes down to understanding what are the key pieces of information. So there's a story I've told a few times about a guy that I sold a couple different businesses to, and he was the vice president at an energy company, and he had a way of managing the different divisions that reported to him. And he would create these custom dashboard reports for each division. And when he bought his own businesses, he just did the same thing. So
Yep.
this guy bought businesses and kept his job.
Yep.
And the managers he had in charge of his businesses would each get a customized dashboard report that would evolve as he got to know the business.
Right.
And then every Friday they had to complete it. So one of his businesses was a driving school. So there would be how many phone call inquiries were there, how many emails, how many forms came in from the website.
Yep.
How many of those agreed to book a sales call? And then what's our conversion into new customers from the sales calls?
Yep.
So
Yep.
he was looking at that sort of marketing information.
Sure.
And then he would look at the income and expenses, the normal profit and loss statement stuff for the
Yep.
activity of the business.
Yeah.
And so he would review that every Saturday morning. And then if he needed to, he would talk to that manager like on Sunday night or something before the work week began.
Yeah.
And just get feedback. So he would see if he had to change anything in that business or create the resources for additional marketing or something, right? Promotion. So you have to get to the point where you know the business well enough that you can do that. But here's the other caveat is that things happen in business and you don't have I'm going to borrow another term from a client of mine. You don't have the bench depth oftentimes to deal with a sudden absence. So if you've got one manager of the business, let's say it's a food service business and most of the employees are teenagers, and the manager quits, disappears, moves away suddenly, is there someone who can step up?
Yeah.
And there may not be.
Yeah.
Which means it's you. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that you have to be cognizant of, is that things can happen that will draw you back in.
Yeah.
I saw a guy on Twitter the other day share a story. He owns a cleaning company. He had to get in his car late at night one night to drive a vacuum cleaner 90 minutes to some employee who was stuck somewhere whose vacuum broke, and he was the only guy available to do it.
Yeah. I mean, that getting out of my career full stop is more appealing than sticking with the day job and running a business that way. That sort of thing, like just kind of firefight. No one loves firefighting particularly because it can just stress you out and burn you out. But actually, just kind of being hands-on with the business, doing those kinds of things to support the business, driving 90 minutes to drop off a vacuum cleaner, sound kind of very interesting from a
it does,
or at least from a novice's perspective.
It sounds appealing, doesn't it?
It does.
And I know I can do it. I know what you're talking about because I can drive a 1-ton truck with a hydraulic hoist that dumps out garbage at the landfill because I used to own a junk removal company. So I had to learn how to drive the truck. Wow. And I have all kinds of memories of exceptional circumstances where I had to go and do things, and where I had to go bring the truck here at this strange time, or bring the truck there at that strange time, or do this or that. And it's good. It's a good formative experience. Yeah. Eventually though, you don't want to do it anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. It will start to annoy you or burn you out. One of the two. Well, hey, that's great. So what happened to you? You were the business broker. You obviously didn't like the cash flows coming into your business broking, so you moved into what you're doing. Oh, you were a business owner before this.
I left business brokerage because of the crazy cash flows, and I became a banker.
Right.
So I went back to the world of a regular paycheck for 4 years. And then as people kept reaching out, looking for my help with these deals, that's what drew me back into a little side hustle consulting. Yeah. And then when the bank reorganized, I had an opportunity to take a package from them.
Sure.
And so that set me up to do this full time.
Right.
But, in the beginning of this conversation, you were mentioning being a business broker, and, the rationalization you made about how risky the cash flow is. I'll tell you, I met so many very educated, intelligent people who came to me in that time who thought they wanted to be a business broker too. Yeah. And when they started to see just what it was like and what that career path held, they realized, no, this isn't for me. Yeah. And I remember there's one guy who I met here in my local market, and he had been very successful in helping to roll out franchise networks across Canada. And so a lot of business development experience, a lot of management experience, really smart guy. He started doing business brokerage, and he did it for 13 months exactly.
Yeah.
And in that time, he met a lot of great business owners. He prepared a bunch of businesses for sale. He met a bunch of buyers, had a whole bunch of deals fall through.
Yeah.
And most people, they've got those listings, and all they see is the potential commission they might earn if they sell the businesses.
Yeah.
What this guy saw was the value of the time he had invested and the failure rate of these deals that were, he thought were going to happen, but then for whatever reason did not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he just decided to pull the plug, and he just said, I've invested too much in this.
Yeah.
And he left.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, yeah, he must be smarter than me, because he got to this point like in a quarter of the time it took me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was really I kind of got lucky because I was really into it. The thought of meeting people around town and understanding the finer workings of some businesses all made perfect sense, except from a cash flow perspective. I just thought, look, if you do want to buy a business in 2 years, but you're no good as a broker or you just get unlucky, where's the cash flow? There is none. So that's pretty much what brought that idea to a halt. So,
well, you can still create, because you're doing contract work, you're technically your own boss. Do you act as a self trader, or do you have like a company?
Yeah, so I've got a little limited company set up, and I get paid via that.
So your limited company that you have set up, I mean, you can call yourself, a change management consultant, or you can use whatever term you want. You can use that as the vehicle or excuse to get out in front of people and start to do that same networking.
Yeah.
And you might pick up some contracts from people, you might pick up some work from people, but most importantly, you can do that networking, and you can just let people know that you're in the market for a business. And that this is, I think, is the key thing, and I think it's lost on a lot of people today. The networking has to be out in the real world.
Yeah.
Like, and this is why I suggested things like looking at joining like a Rotary Club or something. Like, you get involved in an organization where there are events where you're going to run into other business people, where you have the opportunity to shake hands, where you meet someone, and then you see them in a coffee shop and they're talking to someone else, and you go over and they introduce you to that other new person. You trade cards, and now you've expanded your network again. And cultivating and working the network is what's going to bring you the opportunities. 80% of small businesses trade hands without the use of a broker.
Right. Wow, it's that high.
And this is how. Because when somebody decides, I want to sell my business, the first thing they think about is who might want to buy it.
Right.
Right. And people who are employed don't have the luxury of going around telling everyone they want to buy a business. It's bad for their relationship with their employer. Right.
Yeah.
But in your current position, you're immune to that.
Yeah.
You can go around and tell people that you can do certain projects for them as a consultant, and you're looking to buy a business.
Yeah.
And you can just talk about that openly and let the word spread.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. Lots to work with on that one. Again, I was just thinking, look, let's just build this product, because I did mention that I'm working on a product idea. So that's my first port of call, but there's just no reason I can't get involved with the business events and networking and everything else. I mean, look, if my product takes off and I don't do it, well, no harm done in the process.
Yeah. You're in a great position to work on this. You just have to get out there and build that network. Yeah.
And then I guess you've got your program that you're offering. It does look really good. Just because ultimately buying a small business is it can be very risky. And so I can see that your program is designed to kind of de-risk the whole process.
Yeah. So you're talking about Business Buyer Advantage. Business Buyer Advantage is an online course, and it's about 14 hours of content right now, and it's a couple $100. It's lots of people have gone through it, and have used that information to do deals, but more importantly, lots of people have gone through it and have more quickly recognized bad deals,
Right.
which I think is the more valuable aspect. But then the other thing is the group coaching program, Business Buyer Adventure.
Okay.
And that could be something that you might be interested in as you proceed down this path,
Yep.
because it's a group of people that meets together a few times a month, and everyone is in the same boat. They're all searching for a business to buy, and
Right.
everyone brings deals to the table, and they share and they talk about the meetings they had with sellers, and they will bring things in for us to talk about the numbers and talk about the offers and everything like that. And so
Yep.
it's an opportunity to learn, not just from me, but from the other people in the group. And
Right.
there's several people in the group who've already done multiple deals.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of sharing of experience that goes on in there.
How good. So the approach would be something like do the Business Buyer Advantage, get your kind of technical sort of skills, theoretical technical skills up to scratch, then join this adventure program.
Yes, that's exactly it. And
Okay.
and if you go to businessbuyeradvantage.com, it actually puts it in that order. It says you do the training program, and then you can join
Yep.
the group coaching program.
Okay.
And there's people in there from all over the world. There's someone in Australia there right now. So
There you go. All right. Well, it's all going to rely on how my product goes. I'm meeting with the industrial designer today. I instructed him last week. So that's the
you're
first
creating a
protocol.
whole new product to sell
It's
online?
kind of a weird one how this has all happened. That I've been wanting to do e-coms again. I realize I'm probably at least a year, probably more like 18 months to 2 years away from buying a business. Got to stick with my day job. I don't want to just do my day job because I'm over it. But I thought I could do e-com again on top of my day job, like I did 5 years ago, but with the benefit of maturity and greater understanding of how difficult e-commerce is. So no sooner did I buy the program, then I came up with this product idea. I love golf. I was on the golf course and I was like, look, I really need something that does this. And hey, presto, there was the idea, which certainly wasn't how I expected the e-com career to unfold. I was more thinking that I just use the techniques that they describe in their program about, using Google Analytics, identify trends, check out those products that are trending and work out how to innovate them. And they're usually lowish cost type products. That's how I expected it to unfold. But then I had this idea that I just thought was too good to ignore. And so, yeah, that's what I'm doing. The only downside, if that's what you call it, is that my upfront costs to develop this thing are going to be quite high. We're looking at probably somewhere between $20,000 to $40,000 cash of my own money, which again eats into my potential business buying capital, or it does eat into my business buying capital. But again, too good an idea to ignore. And I can crowdfund a lot of it as well. Not the first 20 to 40, but thereafter. So yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that's how people are testing the demand for these things nowadays. Is they're putting up the prototype or whatever on a crowdfunding thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're saying buy one now, and this is how they raise the funds to do the initial production.
Yeah, it's a great platform that I didn't quite understand how it worked. I just assumed all investors would take an equity slice, but it's all flat fees. So you pay a flat fee to Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and then the guys at the crowdfunders, their only interest is getting discounted product and to be considered a early adopter of your new cool tech sexy product.
It's a sale.
And
it's not an equity investment.
Exactly right. Yeah. So that's going to be my first priority. Meeting with that guy later today. Hopefully it comes off. If it doesn't, hey, we're back to the plan of buying a business. So
cool.
Yeah,
Simon, this has been a great conversation. I'm glad you signed up here this year.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. No, for me, I mean, look, I was a bit underprepared because I said I got back from overseas late yesterday. I got delayed out of Thailand. But then I realized it wasn't a problem. I kind of just considered my general questions, and that's all I needed for now. And yeah, you've answered them really well. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for being a viewer of my videos and stuff online, and it was great to meet you in person.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I guess I'll see myself on your platform at some point. Or okay, great, great.
All right, Simon, have a
All
great
right.
holiday season. And of course, you guys get to enjoy Christmas at the beach if you want, don't you?
100%. 100%. Likewise, Dave. Have a great holiday period.
All right.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Cheers. Thanks very much. Bye. Bye.